Untain's was clear and filled with stars. June sat outside his small wooden cabin, looking through the photos he had taken that day. The cool mountain air felt good after a long day of hiking and waiting patiently to capture images of rare animals. June was a wildlife photographer who loved being alone in nature. He had come to these remote mountains for a month-long project. No people, no noise, no problems. Just him and his camera. That was how he liked it best. He was about to go inside when a bright light in the sky caught his attention. At first, he thought it was a shooting star, but it was too big and too bright. The light grew larger and larger, then came a sound like thunder that shook the trees around him. What was that? June whispered to himself, his heart beating fast. Whatever it was, it had crashed somewhere in the forest, maybe 3 or 4 kilometers away. Smoke rose above the trees in the distance. June quickly grabbed his backpack, flashlight, first aid, kit, and camera. Someone might need help. The hike through the dark forest was difficult. June moved carefully over fallen trees and rocks, his flashlight lighting the way. It took him almost an hour to reach the crash site. What he found made him stop and stare in disbelief. A small ship unlike anything he had ever seen was half buried in the dirt. It was not a plane or helicopter. The metal was strange, smooth and silvery with no seams or rivets. Parts of it glowed with a soft blue light. Broken pieces were scattered across the ground. "This can't be real," June said, taking a few photos, without thinking. A sound from inside the ship made him freeze. Someone was alive in there. With careful steps, June approached the ship. A section of it had broken open, creating a small entrance. He shined his light inside and called out, "Hello? Is anyone there? Do you need help?" At first, there was no answer. Then he heard a soft moan of pain. June crawled inside the ship. The interior was small but filled with strange technology, panels with lights and symbols he didn't understand. Near what looked like the pilot's seat, he found her. A woman lay on the floor, partly trapped under a fallen panel. At first glance, she looked human, but as June got closer, he noticed the differences. Her skin had a faint glow to it with small patterns that reminded him of star maps. Her hair was silver white, and when she opened her eyes, they reflected his flashlight like a cat's eyes would. She was not human. She was something else entirely. The woman spoke, but the words made no sense to June. Her language was like nothing he had ever heard. She tried to move away from him, but pain stopped her. Her leg was injured, and she had cuts on her arms and face. "I won't hurt you," June said softly, holding up his empty hands. "I want to help." She watched him with those strange, beautiful eyes, clearly afraid but unable to escape. Slowly, June opened his first aid kit. He pointed to her injuries and then to the bandages and medicine. After a moment, she seemed to understand and stopped, trying to move away. As gently as he could, June helped free her from under the fallen panel. Her leg wasn't broken, but she had a bad cut that needed cleaning and bandaging. He worked carefully, trying not to cause more pain. "My name is June," he said, pointing to himself. He knew she wouldn't understand, but talking seemed to calm her. The woman watched him work. Slowly, her fear seemed to fade. When he finished bandaging her leg, she pointed to herself and said a word that sounded like Nari. "Nari," June repeated, smiling. "Nice to meet you, even if this isn't the best way to meet someone." He looked around the damaged ship. It was clearly beyond repair. Whatever Nari was, wherever she had come from, she was stuck here now. "You can't stay here," June said, making gestures to suggest the ship was unsafe. "My cabin is not far. You can rest there until we figure out what to do next." It took some time and many hand gestures before Nari understood what June was suggesting. Finally, she nodded and tried to stand. She was tall and moved, with a strange grace despite her injuries. June helped support her weight as they slowly made their way out of the ship. The walk back to the cabin took twice as long as June's earlier hike. Nari could walk, but needed to stop often to rest. By the time they reached the cabin, the sky was beginning to lighten with the first hints of dawn. June helped Nari inside and showed her to the small bed. She sat down carefully, looking around the cabin with obvious curiosity. Her eyes moved from object to object, the stove, the books on the shelf, the photos on the wall, studying everything. "Are you hungry?" June asked, miming eating. Nari tilted her head, not understanding. June went to his small kitchen area and returned with a cup of water and an apple. He offered both to her. Nari took the water first, sniffed it, then took a small sip. Finding it acceptable, she drank more. The apple she examined carefully before taking a tiny bite. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she took another, larger bite. While she ate, June sat on a chair nearby, trying not to stare but finding it impossible not to. An alien. A real alien was sitting on his bed eating an apple. His life had changed completely in one night. For the next few hours they tried to communicate. Nari began touching objects and saying words in her language. June would repeat the word and then say it in Korean. They made little progress, but it passed the time. In the afternoon, Nari suddenly became more alert. She reached into a pocket in her strange clothing and pulled out a small device. It was damaged, but she began working on it, using tiny tools from another pocket. June watched in fascination as she opened the device and rearranged things inside it. Her fingers moved with incredible precision. After about an hour, the device began to glow. Nari held it up triumphantly. "This translator, not perfect." A mechanical voice came from the device. "But help us speak." June nearly fell off his chair, in surprise. "You can understand me now?" "Yes," the device translated as Nari spoke. "Thank you for helping me. Most humans would fear, not help." "How do you know about humans?" June asked. Nari's expression became serious. "My people study many worlds. Earth is forbidden to visit. I broke rules to come here. Was curious. Forbidden? Why? Humans classified as dangerous, unpredictable, violent." She paused, looking directly at June. "But you helped me. Not violent. Not all humans are the same," June said. "Just like I'm sure not all, whatever you are the same." "I am Elysian," Nari said. "From world called Elysia, part of Galactic conquered." "There's a whole galactic civilization out there?" June asked, amazed. Nari nodded. "Many worlds, many species." She looked down. "I should not tell you this. Protocol says if discovered by primitive species, I must..." She stopped. "Must what?" "End self. Prevent contamination." Her silver eyes met his. "But I cannot. You showed kindness. I want to understand." June felt cold at her words. "Well, I'm glad you didn't follow that protocol. That's a terrible rule." "Yes," Nari said softly. "Maybe my people wrong about humans. Need to learn more." Outside, the sun was setting. A new night was beginning, the first of many that would change both their lives forever. 2 weeks had passed since Nari crashed on Earth. Her injuries were healing well, but a bigger problem remained. They could not stay in the mountains forever. June's food supplies were running low, and he had to return to his apartment in Seoul soon. "How can we go to the city?" Nari asked one morning while they ate breakfast. "My appearance will cause problems." June looked at her thoughtfully. The silver glow of her skin and eyes would certainly attract attention. "We need to disguise you," he said. "Make you look more human." That day they worked on Nari's disguise. June had brought makeup for his wildlife photography. Sometimes he needed to cover his skin to blend into the environment. He showed Nari how to apply it to hide the starry patterns on her skin. "The makeup will cover the glow," June explained, "and these sunglasses will hide your eyes." Nari put on the dark sunglasses and looked at her reflection in a small mirror. "Will humans believe I am one of them?" "We'll say you're a foreign exchange student," June said. "That will explain if you act a little different or don't know something." "Everyone else knows." Nari nodded, practicing her human appearance. With her silver white hair pulled back and the sunglasses on, she looked almost human, unusual but not alien. The next day, They packed June's belongings and hiked down from the mountains. Nari insisted on visiting her ship one last time. She collected some small devices and personal items from the wreckage. "What about your ship?" June asked. "Someone might find it." "Self-destruct program activated," Nari said. "Soon nothing will remain." She held up a small silver object. "I have saved the important data." They reached the nearest town by afternoon and took a bus to Seoul. Nari was nervous around so many humans, but no one paid them much attention. To everyone else, she was just a foreign woman traveling with a Korean man. June's apartment in Seoul was small but comfortable. It was on the 12th floor of a building with a view of the city. Nari stood by the window for a long time watching the people and cars below. "So many humans," she said quietly. "My people think yours are primitive, but you have built impressive cities. We may not have spaceships like yours, but we do okay," June replied with a smile. "Are there many cities on your world?" "Yes, but different, more connected to nature. Your cities separate you from the natural world." Over the next few days, June taught Nari about human life. He showed her how to use the television, the microwave, the shower. Everything fascinated her. She was a quick learner. In return, Nari told June about life among the stars. The Galactic Concord included 16 different intelligent species from 12 star systems. Humans were one of the few spacefaring races kept isolated from the others. "Why keep Earth quarantined?" June asked one evening as they sat eating dinner. Nari looked uncomfortable. "Official reason is that humans are too violent, too unpredictable, not ready for contact." She paused. "But I am starting to think there may be other reasons." "What do you mean?" "My people fear what is different. Humans adapt quickly, solve problems in ways we would not think of. This could be seen as a threat." June thought about this. "So we're not allowed to join this galactic community because we might be too good at it?" "Perhaps," Nari said. Then her expression changed to worry. "There is something I must tell you. My ship sent an automatic distress signal before crashing." "Isn't that good? Won't your people come to rescue you?" Nari shook her head. "Not rescue. They will come to erase all evidence of contact, including—" She didn't finish the sentence. "Including my memories of you," June said, understanding. "When will they come?" "I do not know. Could be weeks or months. Space travel is fast, but not instant." That night, neither of them slept well. The thought of being separated hung over them like a dark cloud. As days turned into weeks, June and Nari grew closer. He took her to safe places where they wouldn't attract too much attention. Quiet parks, small museums, empty beaches. Nari documented everything she saw, making notes on her small device. "What are you writing?" June asked one day at a nearly empty coffee shop. "Evidence," Nari replied. "I am building a case that humans should be welcomed into the Concord, not feared. You are not what my people think you are." June felt something warm in his chest when she said this. Over the past weeks, his feelings for Nari had grown into something more than friendship. But he said nothing about these feelings. What future could they have? She would eventually return to her world, and he would remain on Earth, possibly without even memories of her. One evening, as they walked back to the apartment, Nari suddenly stopped. She pulled out a small device from her pocket and looked at it with fear. "What's wrong?" June asked. "Energy signatures," she whispered. "Concord technology. They're here." June looked around the busy street, suddenly seeing every stranger as a potential threat. "In Seoul? Already? We must go. Now." Nari grabbed his hand and pulled him into a side alley. "They will track my biology. We need to confuse them." For the next hour, they moved quickly through the city, taking random turns, entering and exiting shops and subway stations. Nari kept checking her device, her face growing more worried. "They're getting closer," she said, as they hurried down a quiet street. "The apartment isn't safe anymore." "Where can we go?" June asked, trying to think of options. His parents' home, a friend's place. Anywhere they went might put others in danger. "I know a place," a voice said from behind them. June and Nari spun around. A man stood there, tall with dark hair and eyes that reflected light just like Nari's, though his skin lacked her starry patterns. "You're like her," June said. "Elysian." The man nodded. "My name is Juan. I've been looking for you, Nari." He spoke Korean perfectly, without a translation device. Nari stepped back, pulling June with her. "Are you with the enforcement team?" "No," Juan said. "I am with those who believe the quarantine of Earth is wrong. We have been watching your research mission with great interest." "My mission was unauthorized," Nari said cautiously. "We know. That's why we did not interfere. Your independent observations are valuable precisely because they are unbiased." Juan looked over his shoulder. "The enforcement team is close. Come with me if you want to save your human friends' memories." Nari and June exchanged a look. They had no reason to trust this stranger, but few options remained. "How do we know this isn't a trap?" June asked. "You don't," Juan admitted. "But consider this. If I wanted to capture you, I would have brought the entire team. Instead, I am alone, offering help." A distant sound like electrical humming reached their ears. Nari's device beeped urgently. "They're using scanners," she said. "Moments away." "We must decide now," Juan insisted. June looked at Nari, then at Juan. "Lead the way." Juan smiled and gestured to a nearby door, the back entrance to what looked like an ordinary restaurant. Quickly, as they slipped through the door, June had the strange feeling that his life had just become even more complicated and dangerous. What had started as an accidental meeting with a crashed alien had now pulled him into what seemed to be a galactic conspiracy. One thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. Juan led June and Nari through the back of the restaurant, down a narrow hallway and into what looked like a storage room. Instead of food supplies, the room contained a small platform with strange markings on the floor. "Stand here," Juan said, pointing to the platform. June hesitated. "What is this?" "Transport pad. It will take us to a safe place." Juan checked a small device similar to Nari's. "The enforcement team is 2 blocks away. We have no time to argue." Nari squeezed June's hand. "I think we can trust him." The 3 of them stepped onto the platform. Juan touched a panel on the wall, and the room seemed to blur around them. June felt a strange pulling sensation, like being underwater and rising to the surface too quickly. Then everything went dark. When June could see again, they were in a completely different place. It looked like an underground facility, a large room with metal walls and bright lights. Several people were working at strange-looking computers. Some appeared human, but others had features like Nari and Juan: slightly glowing skin, unusual eyes, or other subtle differences. "Welcome to Base 7, Juan said. "One of 17 hidden outposts on Earth." 17? June asked in surprise. "How long have you been on Earth?" "Our group has been here for 23 years, Juan explained as he led them through the room. "We are part of the Harmony Movement, a group within the Conquered that believes the policy on Earth is wrong." Nari looked around in amazement. "I had heard rumors of dissident groups, but nothing this organized." They entered a smaller room with a table and chairs. Maps and strange symbols covered the walls. A woman was waiting for them, human in appearance but with the same reflective eyes as Nari. "This is Mina, our base leader," Juan said. Mina nodded to them. "We've been tracking your movements since you crashed, Nari. Your unauthorized research mission caught our attention." "Why?" Nari asked. "Because we need independent evidence of what humans are really like," Mina said. "Evidence not tainted by the official Conquered position." She touched a panel on the table, and a 3-dimensional image appeared, a map of the galaxy with hundreds of glowing dots representing different worlds. "The truth about Earth's quarantine is not what most Concord citizens believe," Mina continued. "Humans are not isolated because they are dangerous. They are isolated because they are special." June stared at the galaxy map. "Special how?" "Human. Minds work differently than most species," Juan explained. "You make mental leaps that seem illogical, but lead to new discoveries. You adapt quickly to new situations. You create art and music that can move even alien hearts. Mina nodded. Most importantly, you learn and grow faster than any species we have encountered. The ruling faction of the Concord fears that if humans joined the galactic community, within a few generations you might surpass them. So it's not about protection? Nari asked, her voice showing her shock. It's about control? Power, Mina corrected. The current leadership has held control for over 300 years. They see humans as a threat to that power. June tried to process this information. His entire species was being kept isolated, not because they were too primitive or violent, but because they had too much potential. Your research, Nari, Juan said, combined with your first-hand experience living with June, could help change minds. You've seen how humans really are, not how they're portrayed in Concord records. Nari nodded slowly. My observations do contradict much of what I was taught. She looked at June. Humans have flaws like any species, but also great capacity for good. Mina smiled. Will you help us make our case to challenge the quarantine? Before Nari could answer, alarms began to sound throughout the base. Red lights flashed overhead. Proximity alert, Juan said, checking a small screen. Enforcement team has tracked us. How? Nari asked. The transport should have hidden our trail. They must have better tracking technology than we thought, Mina said grimly. We need to move everyone out, now. The room filled with activity as people began shutting down equipment and gathering important items. Juan led June and Nari back to the main room where chaos had erupted. The workers were rushing to different transport pads carrying equipment and data storage devices. We have 5 minutes before they break through our shields, Mina announced. Group 1 to Base 3, Group 2 to Base 9, Group 3 to Base 12. A loud explosion shook the facility. Dust fell from the ceiling. That was faster than expected, Juan muttered. They really want you, Nari. Another explosion, stronger. This time, the lights flickered. Go with Group 2, Mina told them, pointing to a transport pad where several people were gathering. They rushed toward the pad, but before they could reach it, a section of the ceiling collapsed. A beam of blue light cut through the opening, and 4 figures dropped into the room. They wore dark uniforms and helmets that hid their faces. Enforcement team, Nari whispered in fear. The team fired strange weapons that shot nets of energy, rather than bullets. Where the nets touched people, they froze in place, unable to move. Run! Juan pushed June and Nari toward a different exit. There's another transport pad in the east section. They ran through a narrow hallway as sounds of fighting erupted behind them. More explosions rocked the base. The lights went out completely, leaving only emergency red lighting to see by. Juan led them around a corner, but they found their path blocked by fallen debris. As they turned to find another route, 2 enforcement officers appeared at the other end of the hall. Stop and surrender, one called out, raising their weapon. Juan pushed June and Nari into a side room and slammed his hand on a panel, closing the door. There's no other exit, he said, looking around desperately. Nari pulled out her small device. Maybe I can override the door controls, create a distraction. She worked quickly, connecting her device to a panel on the wall. Outside, they could hear the enforcement team trying to break through the door. Almost there, Nari said. The door began to glow hot as the team cut through it from the other side. Too late, Juan said. He pulled out a small cylinder and handed it to June. This contains all our research on Earth. Find Base 3. They'll help you. What about you? June asked. I'll buy you time. Juan pointed to an air vent near the ceiling. That connects to the next section. You can reach the transport pad from there. Both of you go, Nari said suddenly. I'm the one they want. If I surrender, they might stop looking for you. No, June said firmly. We stay together. The door began to melt at the edges. There's no time to argue, Nari insisted. She looked at June, her silver eyes filled with emotion. What we started here is bigger than just us. The truth needs to reach the Concord. Before June could stop her, Nari pushed him toward the vent where Juan was already removing the cover. I'll find you, June promised. Whatever it takes. I know, Nari said with a sad smile. The door burst open. Nari turned to face the enforcement team as Juan pulled June into the vent. The last thing June saw was Nari raising her hands in surrender, as an energy net enveloped her. She sacrificed herself for us, Juan said as they crawled through the narrow passage. For the cause. June felt a cold determination replace his fear. Then we better make sure her sacrifice means something. They reached the transport pad, just as more explosions shook the facility. The last remaining workers were disappearing in flashes of light. Where are we going? June asked as they stepped onto the pad. Base 3, Juan said, activating the transport, to plan how to rescue Nari and expose the truth. As the transport activated, June made a silent promise to Nari. He would find her. He would help reveal the conspiracy that kept humanity isolated, and somehow they would be together again. The room blurred around them, and they were gone, leaving behind a base, falling into enemy hands and Nari in the custody of those who wanted to keep Earth's quarantine in place forever. Nari sat alone in a small white room. The walls glowed softly, providing light without any visible source. There was nothing in the room except the chair she sat on. No doors or windows could be seen, yet she knew she was being watched. 3 days had passed since her capture. The enforcement team had taken her directly to a Concord ship hiding in Earth's orbit. From there, they had traveled to the Concord Council headquarters on a space station called Unity Point. The wall in front of Nari suddenly became transparent. On the other side stood 5 aliens of different species. Some looked almost human, while others were very different. One had blue skin and 4 arms. Another was tall and thin with gray skin. Researcher Nari of Elysia. One of them spoke. The words translated perfectly into her language. You will now be brought before the council to answer for your crimes. The floor beneath Nari began to move, carrying her chair forward through the now open wall. She entered a large, circular room. In the center was a small platform where her chair stopped. Around the room, rising in tiers like a theater, sat the 50 members of the Concord Council, representatives from all 16 species. Researcher, Nari, a voice announced, you are charged with violating the Earth Quarantine Protocol, making unauthorized contact with humans, and sharing restricted information about the Concord with a quarantined species. How do you respond? Nari looked up at the council members. She had expected immediate punishment, not a chance to speak. I acknowledge that I went to Earth without permission, she said clearly. But I believe the quarantine is based on incorrect information about humans. Murmurs spread through the council chambers. An older Elysian with deep blue markings on his skin leaned forward. You were on Earth for 62 days, he said. That is the longest unauthorized contact with humans in Concord history. How did you remain undetected for so long? This wasn't what Nari had expected. They seemed more curious than angry. A human helped me, she answered honestly. He found me after my ship crashed and protected me. He taught me how to blend in with his people. And this human did not report you to his authorities? Asked a council member with features like a cat. No. He could have, but he didn't. He showed me kindness. The council members exchanged glances. One of them, a female with crystal-like skin, spoke next. We have reviewed the data from your ship's recordings. They show behavior that contradicts our official assessment of humans. We would like you to present your observations. Nari realized that this was no ordinary trial. They actually wanted to hear what she had learned. This was her chance, the opportunity Juan and Mina had talked about. Humans are not what our records claim, Nari began. Yes, they have conflicts and violence in their history, but they also have great capacity for compassion, creativity, and growth. Over the next hour, Nari presented everything she had observed during her time on Earth. She described how June had helped her despite knowing she was alien. She explained human art, music, and their connection to nature. She showed recordings she had made of everyday human kindness, people helping each other, sharing food, creating beautiful things. Their society is not perfect, Nari concluded, But neither are our societies. The key difference is how quickly humans adapt and learn. In just the short time I was there, I saw evidence of rapid progress in their thinking about important issues. When she finished speaking, the council chamber was silent. Then one member, a being made of what looked like living stone, spoke. Your assessment matches what some of us have suspected for years. But the ruling faction has maintained the quarantine. Based on the ancient reports, the older Elysian who had spoken earlier frowned. One researcher's observations are not enough to change a policy that has existed for 200 years. We need more evidence. The quarantine must continue, insisted another council member, for the safety of the conquered. As the council began to debate among themselves, Nari noticed something strange. Some of the council members seemed nervous, exchanging worried glances. They were hiding something. There is more to this quarantine than safety concerns, isn't there? Nari asked boldly. The Harmony movement says humans are isolated because you fear their potential. The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Guards moved closer to Nari's platform. The Harmony movement is a group of criminals and traitors, the older Elysian declared. You admit to working with them? I learned of them only recently, Nari said, but their explanation makes more sense than the official one. The council was about to respond when a loud alarm sounded throughout the chamber. The large doors at the entrance burst open, and several guards rushed in. Security breach in the lower levels, one reported. Intruders have entered the station. On screens around the chamber, security feeds showed figures moving through corridors, disabling guards with non-lethal weapons. Nari's heart jumped when one of the camera feeds showed a familiar face. June. He was here, on the station. With him were Juan, Mina, and others from the Harmony movement. Lock down the chamber, ordered the older Elysian. Double the guards. But it was too late. The doors to the chamber opened again and June walked in. He wasn't wearing any disguise or protection. He simply walked forward, hands empty, showing he carried no weapons. Guards surrounded him immediately, but he didn't resist. Who are you? Demanded the council leader. My name is June, he said, his voice calm. I am a human from Earth and I have come to speak for my planet. The council members stared in shock. Never before had a human stood in the council chamber. This is unprecedented, the crystal-skinned female said. A quarantined species representative here? How did you get here? Asked another council member. The Harmony movement helped me, June answered honestly. But I came willingly, knowing the risks. I needed to be here for Nari, and for Earth. Nari could hardly believe June was really there. He had crossed space itself to find her. Their eyes met across the chamber, and despite the danger, she felt a surge of hope. You have no right to address this council, the older Elysian said angrily. With respect, June replied. If you're deciding the fate of my species, I have every right to be heard. His words caused another stir among the council members. Some nodded in agreement. Let him speak, the stone-like being said. We have heard from Nari. Now we should hear from a human directly. After a brief debate, the council agreed. June was brought to the center of the room, standing next to Nari's platform. When he passed close to her, he smiled briefly. I'm here, he whispered. We all are. The plan is working. Before Nari could ask what plan he meant, June turned to address the council. His voice was clear and strong as he began to speak about humanity, its struggles and triumphs, its flaws and potential. As he spoke, Nari noticed more guards entering the chamber, taking positions near the exits. Whatever plan June and the others had, they needed to hurry. She could sense that not all the council members were open to change. Some were becoming increasingly angry at this human's boldness. And those council members, Nari realized with growing alarm, were reaching for hidden weapons beneath their robes. The trial had suddenly become much more dangerous than she had imagined. June stood tall before the Concord Council, aware of the tension filling the room. He could see some council members reaching for what he assumed were weapons. Behind him, more guards were entering. Time was running short. Members of the Concord, June said clearly, I am just one human, but I speak for billions who don't even know you exist. For 200 years you've watched us from a distance and judged us based on old information. The older Elysian interrupted. Your species fights wars, pollutes your planet, and divides itself based on trivial differences. You are not ready for contact. We make mistakes, June admitted. But we learn from them. That's what makes us human. Every day people on Earth work to solve these problems, to be better than we were yesterday. As June spoke, he noticed Juan and Mina slipping into the chamber, blending with the crowd of observers. They were carrying small devices, placing them discreetly around the room. The Harmony movement has shown me the real reason for keeping Earth isolated, June continued. You fear us, not because we're dangerous, but because we're different. We think differently. We solve problems in ways you wouldn't consider. The crystal-skinned council member leaned forward. If this is true, human, then your presence here proves the point. No other quarantined species has ever managed to reach this chamber. Only because I had help, June said. From people like Nari who saw the truth and were brave enough to question what they'd been taught. He glanced at Nari, seeing her worried expression as she watched the council members with hidden weapons. But I didn't come here just to argue. For Earth, June added quickly. I came with proof that the ruling faction has been lying about humans for centuries. At this, the older Elysian stood up angrily. Enough of this nonsense. Guards, remove the human and return the prisoner to her cell. Guards moved toward June and Nari. In that moment, Juan activated something on his device. Suddenly, all the view screens in the chamber changed. They showed official Concord documents, classified reports about Earth and humans. These are the original survey reports, Mina announced, stepping forward, unedited and complete. For 2 centuries, certain factions have been removing key information from these reports before sharing them with the council. The council members stared at the screens in confusion and surprise. Even the guards paused, unsure what to do. The first contact team recommended integration, not quarantine, Juan explained. They saw human potential as something to nurture, not fear. The older Elysian and several other council members were now pulling out their weapons. This is treason. Guards, arrest them all. But many of the guards weren't moving. Some even stepped back, unwilling to interfere as the truth was revealed. One of the armed council members aimed at June. Nari saw this and jumped from her platform, pushing June aside just as the weapon fired. A beam of energy grazed her shoulder. Nari! June caught her as she stumbled. The chamber erupted in chaos. Council members were shouting, some demanding explanations, others calling for order. The guards were divided, some moving to protect the council, others turning their weapons on the council members who had fired. Now they show their true nature, Mina said loudly. They would kill to keep their power, to keep the truth hidden. The stone-like council member stood up, its voice booming above the noise. Enough! The chamber fell silent. Violence in the council chamber is forbidden, it said. Those who have drawn weapons have broken our most sacred law. Guards moved to surround the council members who had weapons. The older Elysian looked around in disbelief as his allies were disarmed. This council needs time to review these documents, the stone being continued. If they are genuine, then we have been misled for centuries. They are genuine, Juan confirmed, verified by 3 independent data experts. The crystal-skinned council member approached June and Nari. You are injured, she said to Nari. It's not serious, Nari replied, though her shoulder clearly hurt. The council member turned to the guards. Take her to medical care. The human will accompany her. She looked at June with curious eyes. No human has ever been in this station. Your journey here was impressive. As June helped Nari walk toward the exit, the council chamber continued to buzz with urgent discussions. The truth was out, and nothing could put it back. In the medical bay, a doctor treated Nari's injury while June, Juan, and Mina waited nearby. What happens now? June asked. The council must vote on what to do about Earth, Juan explained. With the truth revealed, I believe they will end the quarantine, but it will take time. Earth isn't ready for sudden contact with alien civilizations, June said. It would cause panic. Mina nodded. That's why we need a transition plan. Gradual introduction over several years. The doctor finished treating Nari and left them alone. Nari sat up, testing her shoulder. Someone will need to be the bridge between Earth and the Concord, she said. Someone who understands both sides. They all looked at her. You want me to do it? Nari realized. Who better? Juan said. You've lived among humans. You understand them in ways no other Concord citizen does. The Galactic Messiah, Mina said with a smile. That's what the Resistance is already calling you. The one who brought the truth to light and connected two worlds. Nari looked at June, uncertainty in her silver eyes. But what about us? If I take this role? June took her hand. We'll make it work. Earth needs a representative in the Concord too. Maybe that could be me. 3 months later, June stood on the balcony of a small apartment overlooking Seoul. The city lights sparkled below, people going about their lives, unaware of how the universe had changed. Only a small group of world leaders and scientists had been informed about the Concord so far. Teams were working on how to gradually introduce the truth to humanity. It would take years, maybe decades, before open contact was established. The door opened behind him, and Nari walked out to join him. She looked tired but happy after a long day of meetings. The council approved the first cultural exchange program, she said. 20 human scientists will visit Elysia next year. That's amazing, June said, putting his arm around her. Did they approve my travel request too? Nari smiled. Yes, you'll be the first official human ambassador to the Concord. They're quite curious about the human who broke into their most secure facility. I had help, June reminded her. A lot of help. They stood silently for a moment, looking at the stars. Somewhere up there, decisions were being made that would change the future of both their peoples. Did you ever imagine, June asked, when your ship crashed in those mountains that this is where we'd end up? Nari shook her head. Never. I was just a student researcher breaking the rules. Now they call me the Galactic Messiah. She laughed softly. It's a ridiculous title. I think it fits, June said. You brought two worlds together. We did, Nari corrected him. Together. She leaned her head on his shoulder as they watched the night sky. Their journey had only just begun. There would be challenges ahead. Prejudice to overcome, cultures to bridge, histories to reconcile. But they had already accomplished the impossible. A crashed ship in the mountains had led to the greatest discovery in human history. A forbidden friendship had grown into something that would change the galaxy. And a simple transfer student had become the messenger of a new era. In the vastness of space, Earth was no longer alone. And in the quiet of that night, neither were they.